I always feel like we're going live on the news when we do this, Murph.
That's true.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome to TSG Live Talking Trains. I'm John, the guest, actually. This is Murph, the host.
I am, of course, am the star of the show today.
Aren't
look you
at
all
him.
Lucky?
He looks like a real star, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And to our right on the screen is Thomas Gasior, who's the host or head boss of the Crossing Gate podcast. And we're going to talk about some fun stuff today. So I'm actually trying to be a guest on my own show this time. So instead of being the co-host, he's the host.
So if you see me come around and do this kind of thing, he's speaking too much. Actually,
I have some tape I can put over.
I hope to have both of you doing most of the talking. Yeah. So my job should be the easy bit, right, Tom?
Yeah, that's right. Sydney will just move the camera so John's on a screen. So he'll just.
There we go.
I look better when I'm off screen.
Well, that's why I have a face for podcasting. So that's why I do that kind of thing.
Sadly, I do enough live things and enough things that need a host, and it's expedient for me just to be the host. So that's how I got stuck doing it. But I'm sure we'll bring that up because we'll be talking about stuff like that during the show, I think. So what are we talking about, though, host?
So today we're talking about the various styles and kinds and focuses of content you can consume, either by podcasts or by YouTube videos or whatever medium you use, and kind of why each of these styles might make you more interested in it. I kind of brought it up when John was talking about having several content creators on this this telecast or videocast of, well, why don't we talk about, kind of what draws a customer to look at what you're serving? And I said, I look for various different things depending on what kind of mood I'm on. And so I'm kind of curious what you guys think about it, whether or not you make content to focus.
Got it. And I just got told to rename myself to John and Murph. So now
there we go.
Now people know who we are.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to confuse
places.
Yeah, I don't want to confuse anybody.
That's right. So anyway, if we can move on with the slides here, we'll get going.
Oh, why don't I bring up the slides? See, I can still do some. I'm just a monkey. I push the buttons. I'm good at that.
So this is a content creator roundhouse. Unfortunately, everybody started getting busy except for Tom and John. So I have those two to talk to, and I think we can keep the ball rolling here. This will be great.
I should rename myself to Jerry, so it's Tom and Jerry.
Tom and Jerry. That would be great. Yeah. Some of us remember that.
It's the sequel for that too.
Okay, click.
Oh, click is here. You can. Click
you don't get to just do nothing.
Just use the arrow key.
Yeah.
What's this? Hey,
so,
that's you.
Yeah, I'm the host. We have John Abaticola from TSG, or as Siri likes to call him, John Abaticola.
Abaticola.
Because I don't know why. And Tom Gasior from, he's up in Minnesota, and he puts out the TCD Crossing Gate, which is the official podcast of the
Twin Cities Division.
Twin Cities Division. There we go.
Look, I even created a special thing here for that.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, I really like the Minnesota area for doing model railroads. So that's pretty cool.
I have a suggestion. Can I suggest? As a non-co-host?
Sure.
Tom, you need to tell everybody out here about the Crossing Gate.
Yeah.
What it is and where they can find it.
It's a lot easier for me.
Well, I mean, no, because that way you can maybe get some more listeners.
Actually, it'd be really good.
Use it as a little promo, right?
Yeah.
More listeners. All right. Less viewers. Hello, everybody. This is what I call the podcaster hostage exchange program, where we all go on each other's podcasts. But I'm one of the hosts or co-hosts or referee, whatever, of the Crossing Gate podcast, which was started by myself and Ken Zeska. And the Crossing Gate podcast is not interviews. It is not recommendations or reviews on things. It's usually a group of modelers, and we discuss a single topic that's important to us in the hobby, from operations to painting to why do we pick industries. What I wanted to depict with the Crossing Gate, and what you'll find if you listen to it, it's similar to if you had a meeting, a train show, an operations session, and then you met afterwards with your friends with a beverage or meal, and that discussion that you would have. And I always enjoyed that aspect and that social portion of the hobby, instead of just talking, how do you paint this better or what glue do you use, where you can sit around, a table and talk with some other people and get their ideas, their input. And that's what the Crossing Gate tries to do with a lot of humor mixed in too.
Oh, you mean like the sponsors, right?
Yeah, well, the sponsors are one. We have a really good one coming up, and also just the people that I surround myself with. I want to be around people that don't take themselves too serious. So
I know this is kind of jumping the gun, but it's kind of interesting, the format you're talking about. One of the things I've found in other topics, I do a lot of miniature painting, but there's a group of oddly enough painters in the upper Midwest area that get together, and they do talk about their techniques and that kind of stuff. The thing I find interesting and informative is the way they appreciate each other's stuff. It almost intensifies or really kind of puts a focus on, this is an achievable way to get things done that maybe everybody should take notice of. So I'm really glad to hear about that format. I need to start listening a bit more, evidently. I've walked away from podcasts for a while and I need to get back in.
yeah, well, just listen at like 1.5 speed. And it sounds a lot better.
Well, no,
That's what William Sampson told me. He goes, I just listened to it. Like, okay, if your drive is only 10 minutes, that's great. So,
you're making a joke about that, kind of saying it tongue in cheek, but I do find myself when I'm watching or listening to anything, I do just that because not because I find it boring or anything, but because my time is so limited.
Right.
And I even find myself, if I'm having to review something that I've put out myself, like I might watch this video again because during these videos, almost always I promise to post a link into the description so people can find it very easily when they're watching us on a replay. And once again, here I am, and I don't have a pad of paper to make notes of which links I said I'd put in. So I'll watch it later, and I have to watch it fast because I don't want to hear myself talk at regular speed for an hour or two. I already know what we talked about, right?
Right.
But that's a really good feature that most media players have, including this one here on YouTube. So,
Yeah.
but while you're going to advance the slide.
Yeah. Well, I thought I was.
Oh, is it not?
Clearly, yeah. You missed my focus here.
There we go. Oh,
so yeah, this is going to be a discussion about the content creation, you guys, and us as consumers. That's why I'm a host. Yeah. I have the view of somebody that actually like consumes a bunch of stuff all the time and what kind of makes my day and doesn't. So, okay.
Oh, boy.
So it's a matter of, I tried to classify things that actually get me interested in various casts or whatever. And I found it isn't like I only ever focus on one thing. Sometimes I want to have some inspiration when people talk about, what they've got and how it works for them and what they enjoy about either their layout or somebody's that they visited. Sometimes it's a matter of instruction, like, how do I do a backdrop? And then can I find somebody doing a backdrop for somebody with limited artistic skills like me? And yeah. And sometimes it's a matter of, oh, here's somebody even a little bit better if I want to up my skills, or if I want to weather cars, etc. Data and info on new products is one thing where it's like, oh, what's coming out? What kind of new capabilities might there be, and what are the prices going to be, and what era is it going to be in, and that sort of thing. Another thing, which in some ways I think lends itself to what Thomas was talking about, camaraderie in the hobby. People getting together and talking about what made an op session for them, or, made this show kind of fun, that they actually saw new things and what sparked their interest, sometimes can be enough to kind of like get me going again on the hobby. And then one of my favorite things is what I consider a commiseration cast. And that is, these are the things I messed up on. and I wish I hadn't done this way. And I'm not going to do it that way again on my next layout. And here's how I'm going to fix that, or here's how I did fix that. So those are kind of the classifications. If any of you out there in listener land have anything else like that, let me know, because we can include that. So
yeah, we should probably mention too that this is a really good opportunity, I think, for the viewers to pick our brains on this, because we have a pretty small grouping of people. And I mean, I don't usually do, Q&A sessions. I don't feel like I'm interesting enough necessarily for people to want to ask questions of me. But certainly, if you have a question for Thomas, you can ask me too if you have something, and I'll, honestly answer. But having a small group here today, it really lends itself to having more interaction with the live people who are watching right now in the chat. So
yeah,
if you're watching live in the chat right now, please be sure to post questions, because we have plenty of time to answer them for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, Thomas, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I think this is a great list, and I hope people in chat will go down this list and give us their ideas.
Yeah.
Can I say something though about the crossing gate? Because I have listened to a few episodes. We were talking a little bit beforehand, before we went live, and I'm really bad at watching and listening, consuming other people's stuff. The reason why is because I'm creating it all the time, and it's really hard for me to turn off my computer and go to listen to somebody else's stuff, because I'm at that time I'm done, I'm out of it. But the crossing gate episodes that I have listened to at 1.5 speed, I'll be the first to admit it, I found that I really enjoyed the camaraderie that you guys obviously have with each other. It also helps that I have interacted with Mike Jordan a fair amount, so I would listen specifically to hear what he had to say, because he has a wit that I enjoy. And I found myself thinking or feeling like I'm sitting there in the room kind of with my buddies that are all talking. The only difference is I can't say anything, which kind of sucks. I'd like to be on your show one of these days. I think we'd have a fun time.
Yeah, we'd like that.
You should just do that.
Yeah. You'll have to invite me though, Tom. That's the one thing it takes.
Yeah.
We can be bribed. So we're not above being bribed. So
should I find the local donut shop and have some sent to you? Or?
Well, yeah, that's the start is donuts. We'll do just about anything for donuts. So.
I'm the same way.
Yes. Maybe that's part of the hobby right there. It's just
donuts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We're so picky on them. We learned at we call it the Modelers Retreat, which is like an RPM meet, and we provide donuts for everybody. And the guy running it had 2 huge boxes, and nobody touched the powdered donuts. We're like, okay, donuts. Next year's plan, more tables, get Modelers' clinic, and no more powdered donut. So that's a funny point. But yeah, no, it's true that you don't, as a podcaster, videocaster, difficult to watch, or just the time-wise, it's not difficult to watch or listen to unless you're listening to me, but it is, difficult for us to find the time to do that. I think like the Second Section podcast, I try and catch them when they're live because I have the time when they do that. I don't think I've ever had a chance to go back and partake in one of their long videos, which is very good because they have amazing guests showing you, hands-on. John, you're so visual, and I think that's one of the differences maybe we'll talk about too is TSG in second section, I'll say it right, are so good at the visual representation of what you do. And like around the layout and the crossing gate, we're more audio. And I think we're putting out a product that you can listen to on the workbench while you're working on stuff. You don't have to look at the computer. You can listen while driving, all kinds of things. And one of the funny things I always get when people come up to me, they go, you'd say something complimentary about the crossing gate, and then they tell me they just don't have time to watch it, which kind of tells me I know you're not even listening to it because there's nothing to watch. So,
right? Yeah, I need to get back into the podcast habit. When I commuted a lot, I lived on podcasts because obviously you don't want to be watching a video.
Yeah.
And I retired a couple of years ago and kind of got away from it, but I really need to get back to it. I think that's a picture I included for the Model Railroad Museum.
Mhm.
I was at the Colorado Model Railroad Museum, I think a year before the get-together thing. I was at a concert at Red Rocks. My wife was sleeping in on the Sunday morning, and I think I drove up in the rental car without her and took a little tour of the Railroad Museum and took a bunch of pictures. It was like, it kind of, for me, fits into the inspiration part of things.
Yeah.
It was fun.
You know,
So,
well, I want to say something before you advance a slide.
Okay.
Because looking at your list,
yeah.
Murph, I think that the TSG Multimedia channel covers all 5 of these to one degree or another. I mean, like there are specific series of videos that I have that touch on all of this. For example, inspiration. I would say that the layout tour videos could provide inspiration endlessly to people who are thinking of building something.
Mm-hmm.
Instruction. I would like to get more how-to stuff onto the channel, but I do have a whole series of Model Railroading 101.
Yep.
Plus a bunch of different videos of working on, like the garden scale climax where we put the Blue Nami and the battery into it.
Right.
I've done some how-to videos of installing DCC into, N scale and HO scale models as well as a weathering video. So there's a lot of instruction. I'd like more data. I have product spotlights every week, right? Pretty much every Friday there's something, whether it's HO or I have something called N scale Friday for the N scale products. Camaraderie, I think this, as well as the Chasing Trains series, covers that pretty well. I don't think we do a lot of commiseration unless you count Talking Trains, because there are some things.
Actually, I think Jack Burgess had one, and
he did
at one point, as I recall.
Yeah.
And the thing is, okay, I hate to tell you this, John, but you produce a lot of content, and I don't watch every show every day of the week.
That's so much. It's too much.
Though at times I will sometimes go into the railroad room and put a whole bunch of layout tours out from your list on my Apple TV and have it play while I'm working around the layout. I might be, actually inspecting cars or something like that. And so it kind of goes into the whole, what am I in the mood for today? What can I tolerate? And there's times where it's like, I don't want to hear about new stuff. I've already got all the stuff I can possibly buy. Oh, wait, shiny. But it kind of like it fills the bill. And yeah, there are some people, or there are some casters where it's like, no, I know they're always this stuff. And so maybe they're cutting themselves out of me being a content consumer sometimes, but other times I might be hot on looking their stuff. So that's kind of the angle I'm going at here.
No, I think it's a good list though. And it's not a conscious thing where I've set out to do this, that, and the other with a detailed punch list of all the areas that I want to cover. I just like to produce stuff that I think I would find interesting as someone who enjoys this type of content. And it seems to be working. So,
well, it's kind of like the camaraderie thing. When you did all the stuff with the G scale guys, where I've got no interest in modeling G scale, but honestly, you guys all had such a great time every time you got together. It's like, oh, I'll watch this. Or your foamer stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is cool. I like this. Let's see more Alvin.
Well, here's the little secret. And I learned this by doing a lot of videos for a long time with someone who really didn't want to be there. And that is, and I'm sure you can attest to this, Tom, with your crossing gate, even.
Yeah.
That everything is a lot better if you're with people who want to be there, who genuinely enjoy each other. I've been in I guess, friendships or relationships where one person's really doing all the work and it doesn't really work. Right. Yeah. But these guys, and it doesn't matter who I get together with. Tom, we could meet you tomorrow for lunch and it would be exactly the same as what we're doing here, except I might cuss a little bit more because I tend to do that when I'm in person and not on the air.
And he might lie to you about the great smell of garlic coming in from the kitchen before lunch.
Okay. Now you're going to have to explain that because it doesn't.
No,
make sense.
we'll save that. I just want to say, if you can outcuss a former Marine and a railroader, you're doing pretty good. So,
well, let's say it would be too colorful probably for a show like this because we're trying to be family friendly, and
yes,
that's one of the things that I'm really sorry. You need to talk too, Tom, but I want to mention this because you just brought it up. One of the things I try to do really, really hard on this channel is to make sure that there's something for everyone.
Right.
Not, consciously, but I'm not going to allow cussing on the show. I cussed last time. I don't know.
You did.
I don't know if you saw it, but I said one bad word on the last Talking Trains show, but it was in context, so it worked. But I'm trying to make sure that we're inclusive, right? We're including as many people as we can and not excluding people for whatever reason. Whatever you disagree with someone about, there's no reason to exclude them from a cool hobby.
Right. Yeah, that's the whole. I think we'll bring about the NMRA. You got Gordy, the big tent idea, right? And I think that's what we try to do. And so I'm gonna. Because I'm always hosting things, I'm going to drag us back to this list because I want to ask the people in chat this. And John, all good points, but let's go to the bottom where it says commiseration, right? Things I did wrong and what I learned. One of my favorite podcasts, which I hosted, was called Lessons from the Trash Can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I asked my crew, I said, what's in your trash can that you learned a lesson or did this? And it kind of came back. I don't know if you remember the old Atlas forums. They had a thread on there called "When Do You Walk Away?" And there was a guy at this project, he had this Santa Fe like E1 Streamliner trying to put DCs in it, just nothing worked. And I thought, okay, that's gonna be it. But it had like 400 comments, and everybody was saying this one project and this and that, and I've had mine, so I had my guys, and there's a lot of that. And I think by watching videos that are edited, podcasts that are edited, you're talking to this person or master modelers, or everything's perfect. So that's why I want to get out there, that there is commiseration in this hobby. People do melt decoders. People have $400 engines hit the floor. People do buy things online, and it's I think that's a wonderful topic, and I would love to hear people in chat say what's your number one thing you walked away from. What lesson did you learn that's now in the trash can? Because I know I've got plenty from all the years I've done. And,
super elevated curves.
Well, there you go.
Again, not me. No.
Yes, that's a half-hour show right there.
Just one topic, right?
One topic right there, And I think the camaraderie of the community. I think the appreciation of others is what you brought up there, and also something I preach is people get inspired by John's videos, by other videos of layout tours and this, but it's also you get this, I could never do that. Oh, you do so good. I can't build that, that big bridge you see right there, that gorgeous bridge over there. And I always tell people that, comparison is the absolute thief of joy, right? Don't let your skills at this point dictate how you feel about the hobby. I couldn't build that bridge, and there's things, and you're like, wow, I wish I could do that. But don't let that steal your joy. And don't let, I always tell people when they build their first model, they go, look at this. I know it's crap, but I always tell them to keep it, just keep it and look at it in 10 years, not to cringe, but to see how far you've come, right? Let me see your first scratch build. Let me see the first switch you hand build. I know mine looked like it was built by a drunk monkey, right? The second one was built by a kid in shop class and he got a B. And the third one went on my layout. So, there's going to be these times you can't start out with that trestle over there or Jack Burgess's or Bob Rivard's layout or things like that. It's his camaraderie. And I think that's where the camaraderie gets you, because you need people to pick you up.
Sure. Yeah.
You're doing okay. Here's,
I think that's important. I still remember back in the 70s when my first go around in the hobby, when I was a teenager, Tony Custer I think it was an RMC, had a trains of thought or whatever it was article about good enough modeling of the, it's kind of in that whole, perfect is the enemy of good enough kind of idea of getting the layout up and running and actually having things to actually do on the layout or run on the layout is enough to kind of get the fire started. You can't get better until you get started. So
Correct.
That's a good point. You can't get better till you get started. But also something that I've always heard, really with a lot of hobbies, but especially in the model railroading hobby, is that the people who are good are only good because of the mistakes they made.
Mhm.
And if you're afraid to make mistakes, you'll never get better.
Yeah.
So I think
The masters made, the reason they're masters because they've made a lot more mistakes than you have.
right.
You know.
And the nice thing about that is that you can learn from other people's mistakes if you're paying attention. So something I also want to mention, which is really a compliment to you, Tom, which is I think that you cover all 5 of these things just on your audio podcast. Maybe a little bit indirectly, like you don't have, at least I've never heard an actual product spotlight, for example, or a product review on the Crossing Gate, but your guys might talk about this particular product that they're using, which would, to me, would be like, oh, I didn't know that was available. I'll have to look for it. So there's a lot of things you can do and not even realize you're doing it. So
yeah, that comes up quite a bit as we're all, trying to fund this thing. I know my podcast doesn't cost much, but as reviewing products, the funny story is we've actually turned down sponsors because I don't want them getting confused with our fake sponsors.
Mhm.
I don't, I don't want, wait a minute, is this a real sponsor? He said Rapido or said this or whatever name or we're like, no, we're just going to stick with our fake sponsors and let my wife have at it. So, but yeah, I do like the idea of like, if somebody's telling me they use something, this is what I used and I didn't like it, then I used this and I liked it. And that's important to me to see on your videos. And then, because I'm writing that down, I got to go to the hobby shop or order it.
Yeah.
But it's not an advertisement. It's just, hey, this is how I use, this is the powder I use. This is the glue I like.
Here's an interesting question, if you don't mind me putting it up here. I think Sparky makes a good point here, and I think there's a way to do this. He wants people to build you up, but he also wants honesty. And I think that there's a way to do that, which originally when we were kind of kicking around the idea of the show, my idea was to talk about not being the grumpy guy or driving people away from the hobby, for example. And what he's saying here kind of talks about that, because you can be honest with people while giving a criticism, without being a jerk, right?
Yeah.
So
I think the dividing line on that is like Sparky, if you show your layout, like, oh yeah, this is great, Dave, I got all these layouts, all these levels. But if that person asks you, what would you edit out? What's an overkill? If that person asks you, then I feel open to say, hey, try this or this or this. Because my opinion of unsolicited advice is that it's always criticism. And when you do that to someone, they're always going to take it as criticism. And that way your advice going forward is going to be that much less effective. So I think we have to be brave enough to, take in all the adoration. Like, okay, it's great. What would you do different? Be seriously, what would you fix? Well, I'd fix that switch, I'd fix the wiring or that engine.
Look, Tom, I think Mike's ears must have been burning because now he's watching. I was just talking about you, Mike.
Oh, Mike's here.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember Jim Lincoln coming to visit my first layout. He's been on Modeler's Life a lot. And he's a track work stickler.
Yeah.
And we were down looking at the Caliente curve where it met up with some reasonably straight track. But he gets down to track level on one side and he motions me down to track level at the other side. And here's this kink in the track. And all he didn't say a thing. He just said, So as I'm building my new layout, all I could do is I'd start looking at this and I'd go, oh, there's
Yeah.
Jim right there.
Yeah. What would Jim do? You know?
Right.
Here's a question. I'll throw this out to you. I think I know what you'll say, Tom, but I like, for example, when it comes to this whole criticism or constructive criticism or whatever, I'm on social media on Facebook. Okay. And there are a lot of railroad groups, and there are certain groups where people will post stuff and they'll say, well, what do you think of my first try or whatever? What do you think of this thing I just weathered, for example? And sometimes it's really, really, and I mean really bad. And I look at it and my internal thought is, oh, that poor model, this person's completely destroyed it. But my external, being positive or trying to be more positive, if I say anything, it would be something like, this is, a good start. I'm glad that you're practicing on, something inexpensive, for example. Because then you're positive, like, well, you're getting started. It's better than doing nothing,
right. Give the thumbs up. I've always said the words "well done" go a long ways, and just leave it. But if you want to add advice, then I will ask them. They have this boxcar and it looks worse than something I did. It's like, well, what products did you use? And then so like you're inquiring the person, well, I use this and this and this, and maybe get them to come back and say, what do you use?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to do mud. I like this or I like that.
Yeah. There are ways to do it tactfully, I think, is the point, right? Like I would never go on and say what I thought internally, like, what have you done to this poor model? Give it a refund or something because you just killed it. It's like a bad haircut or something,
And I think, this goes into our little pre-show conversation, and maybe we'll let the listeners and people in chat think about this. Have any of us known, and as people in chat, poor content creators, and no names, okay? But my idea of what makes people a poor content creator is not their methods or this or that. It goes mostly on this YouTube, and you look at the thumbnail, and it's the greatest way to ballast track, the greatest way to weather a freight car, the best way to, and I'm like, I hate that. I just want to say, here's how I do this.
Right.
Right.
And because I just like, well, there's 10 videos here on who's the greatest, graffiti artist. And I'm like, I think that's a disservice to, I know you're trying to attract people on one hand, but.
Do you know what it is? There's a I don't know what you call it, an add-on, I guess, for YouTube that I actually subscribe to. And it says, let us come up with an AI generated description that'll get more hits.
Okay.
And it's always this sensationalistic nonsense, like expert reveals the top 3 secrets of weathering, or something like that. And it's like, no, this is a video about basic weathering techniques. And I'm not going to lie to try to get, clickbait to try to get views, because then people will watch it and go, well, that guy was full of nonsense, so I'm not going to watch any more of his stuff, because he lied about the greatest weathering job or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's an interesting comment coming up repeatedly in our chat, the live viewers, saying something like, to the effect that if you post something, you're putting yourself out there. So you should be prepared for whatever negative comments may come your way. And frankly, I agree with that. I think that if you post something publicly to social media, make sure you have something of a thick skin, because you're going to end up with haters or negative people, the people that think what I thought, but then they don't know enough to not filter it out. They just type it in. What have you done to this poor model?
Right. Or it deteriorates. You'll post something. Okay. How do you think of my weathered car? And somebody says, the next one is, you should have used oils. Well, why'd you do this? And the third one is, used cars in your area. You get all, it's all the way down. I'm like, wait a minute, and you have to take the good with the bad, because people can hide behind, Split Rock, or people can hide behind TSG. And with that anonymity, you're going to get some of these comments. So I agree, have a thick skin and learn to delete and move on with your life.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. If you made, 999 perfect models of a boxcar and you had one lousy one, people are going to remember the one lousy one. And that's human nature,
And sometimes if you put out content that's basically, here's my method of doing this, it might be the one that actually works for somebody.
Yep.
It might be the idea that nobody's actually explained to somebody before or shown maybe in the way that you do, and it actually hits home. I still remember early in my software career, I came up with a way of utilizing certain controls in order to make a secure website. And my boss at the time said, you should actually patent this technique. And I was like, oh no, this is so patently obvious. You'd be never worth having a patent for. I've since had several other patents issued that were nowhere near as cool as this one idea I had. And I'm like, yeah, I should have put that out there. I should have actually made that a thing.
Yeah.
And the same thing is true with certain techniques for model railroading or whatever you do. So
yeah. Sparky says a great thing where it's the weight of who's making the comments. I don't know why he says mine, but I've always thought that. And if you're in a position, and maybe I'm in that position, like I said, superintendent of a division and master model railroader, this and this, those are the people, or we're the people, John, John Multimedia Corporation. It's we have to be careful what we say.
I think I just got a promotion.
Yeah, you did. You did.
I didn't realize I'm sitting next to a mogul
of grand proportions, the grand poobah. But I think that it comes with great weight, and I think some people in this hobby attracts a lot of people on various spectrums, and you have to take that in consideration of what they're going to say to you when you ask. Because like I said, when I ask other MMRs or people like, okay, well, how did you do this? Their opinion means a lot more, to me than, like Mike Jordan or something. So they just don't.
Well, I think that if you had a bad comment for me, I would probably figure I needed a bigger donut bribe next.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's another interesting comment here, I think, is that Otter Creek is saying that a lot of these critical comments are coming from people that have nothing to show for themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's a lot of that armchair criticizing that goes on.
Yeah.
I've seen stuff like that sometimes, even on my videos. They're like, oh, you should have done this or you should have done that. And sometimes I'll type in there, it's like, well, why don't you do that when you make a video about it?
3 words is let's see yours.
Right?
Yeah.
Let me see your John Henry turbine that you scratch build. Wait a minute, let's see.
Here's a nice positive comment, I think, from Floyd Robbins, which is find something to compliment someone with. Never go to, someone's work and tell them what you don't like about it. I mean, that's kind of an etiquette or a common courtesy thing, I think. Like, could you imagine someone going to a layout and saying, oh, I would have done this, it would have been a lot better.
So actually, as a content,
if you don't ask, that's out of line.
Right.
But like you said, hey guys, we got an op session, what would you do?
Right.
I'm asking,
Yeah. And as a content consumer, I used to go to various websites that would guys talking about their layout. And at first I'd be kind of like, well, I've seen better ones than this. And then I was like,
right.
Yeah, but you know what? This guy's getting this done. And he actually has a reasonable layout and trains run. And that's actually a pretty cool technique that is achievable for me. So yeah, I think we can all humble ourselves a little bit and consume a little bit of everybody's content and look for the good bits. So, like you say.
And you don't have to say what you don't like.
Oh no. Yeah. Well, in general, most people know what you don't like. I find myself, I am probably the harshest critic of myself. So. Right.
I mean, every content creator, at least on YouTube, goes through the phases of, I'm going to put one out every week. I want to put one out every other week. Okay, I'm going to put out once a month. Okay, I'll put one out 3 months. And then comes the apology video, and then they go away. So it's, I'm like, be careful what you say, because there's,
watching
graveyard of content creators here on this
Watching Sparky's episode of I'm ripping out this level, and then the next one was, and here's how I'm building it back. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
thank God.
We're building it back better. You know?
It was cool to see. It actually was kind of one of those commiseration things for me. So that was cool. So anyway, let's go. Next.
Yeah,
slide.
let's do the next one.
So yeah, now we're going to go pick through every one of these things. Inspiration, things to get you going. This kind of spans a whole lot of different things, including, little projects. They don't have to be like the big mind-numbingly like long 24-part series of doing something. It can be a 5-minute. Oh, here's how we actually just, spray paint this or whatever. Layouts that basically might do things that you aren't necessarily interested in, but this is a different way of doing it. And smashing through your own barrier. Basically, what's particularly giving you a hard thing? This isn't the same as commiserating. This is actually, I've never tried this before. Here's the thought process I had to go through in order to learn what to do. Sometimes that's really interesting because it might be the same barrier you have.
Right. Yeah, we did a podcast on this of what's a catalyst. What caused you to improve? Because we've all improved. You look back, what caused you to do this? What was your inspiration? Some of the things that I push being in the NMRA is like, hey, try the achievement program. Well, I'm a good man. Okay, we'll try and fit into these guidelines or earn this certificate or do that. Well, I got a scratch build. Yeah, give it a try. I think I've inspired like 8 or 9 people to scratch build rolling stock. I mean, I never would have scratch build rolling stock. There's no reason I can go buy a perfectly museum quality train, but I'm like, well, I want to go for it. I'm going to try and scratch build this. Let me see if I can find a lesson. And I found a lesson from another NMRA division, and I built these cars. And now I've handed my cars off to at least 4 other people so they can look at them and build their own. And it's, I like that. Go through your own barriers, challenge yourself. Why not?
Yeah, another thing on inspiration. Sometimes the way people prep their layout rooms and that kind of stuff, so it's actually a clean, inviting place to be, or maybe their inspiration as far as, I need this much aisle space in order to get people by, the famous 2 Murph problem, things like that. Can 2 Murphs get by themselves in an aisle?
Right. Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of room.
We call that butts and guts. So
you got it. Yeah.
A layout design there. So go to this layout filling different spots. What do you mean by that?
Well, a lot of times it's like, what was it? Was it Hayden or Frary that did the sugar plantation layout type thing? Long time, probably about 15 years ago. It's like, this is not the kind of layout modeling I would do, but it's kind of cool the way I actually solve the problem of not actually having off-the-shelf stuff. How we'd make the palm trees or that sort of thing when it's not really like, try going to woodland scenics and getting a palm tree. At least back then it was not happening. Right.
I think 3D printing is filling a lot of that void, but that's another topic and a hobby unto itself. But yeah, you're right. If you wanted to model, we always joke about the Cuban narrow gauge sugarcane railroad.
Right.
It's how come no one writes about that in the magazines? Because no one models it.
The people that will dedicate a whole layout to a steel mill.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Astound me because of the research or whatever they do into these are the bits of it's like you're modeling one industry, basically. Right. It looks like.
Yeah. They have their own special interest group and national convention. It's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's kind of like, it's not necessarily the thing that will be the thing I do, but it's kind of okay, that's a whole set of problems. Is there anything to learn from this for what I want to do with my hobby that might be a little bit off kilter, or not, the niche isn't filled by some producer? Like you're saying, now that we have 3D printing, things are a lot better. But back in the old days, it was a matter of, okay, if I stick this to that, it kind of looks like one of those. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think like if John's showing all these layouts of people's ideas of what they want to model and us talking about all of ours, that you find out that people want to model hey, I want to model Southern California. I need palm trees. What's a better way to do it? And they're going to look to Luke Towan and his cricket machine, and you're going to look to this because you just can't buy a lot of these things off the shelf. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe some of these content creators are filling that void.
Right. And sometimes it's a matter of, sometimes there's almost like a negative inspiration that actually ends up being positive inspiration for you. In that I like single track railroading a lot. There's so much here where it's like it's single track and then you end up with a passing siding or something like that. And there's long stretches of single track. Sometimes I'll watch a layout that has a whole bunch of double and triple track all the way around the layout. And it just kind of confirms to me, oh, that's not my style of railroading. It's not any knock on them. Sometimes they're doing great, like, around the Chicago area modeling or something like that, where you really do have that stuff happening, but it's not my layout. And it kind of confirms for me, no, I'm going the right way for myself. So in a way, that's still inspiration, even for me.
That goes to something that I've said quite often, which is, yeah, you can learn what to do from people, but quite often you can learn what not to do. And the difference is in your attitude. Like, what are you looking for? And if you're open to picking up both, right? So,
yeah, and I think maybe that goes back. We talk a lot about this, whatever the phrase is, be true to thine own self. Is when you walk into someone's layout, I want to know their story, right? I mean, I want to buy into their story. We're going to go operate, and I'm like, okay, we're on the Pennsylvania in 1954, just west of Philadelphia, or like Mike Jordan. Okay, we're in the California beach area, moving reefers in 1950s, and my layout, you walk in and it's pine trees, birch trees, and ore cars. And I've had a lot of people, well, you should put this factor or this factor. I'm like, no, my story is, hauling red dirt. I model a conveyor belt. So, and I think that's one of the things too, where people can do now is just, what's your story and can you stick to it?
Right.
And those make better layouts to me, in my humble opinion.
Right. And sometimes seeing other layouts, the layouts filling different spots, only confirm your preferences, which is a fine thing. And it doesn't mean that that's a bad layout. And nor should you ever take it as, oh, that's that. I hate that. It's I have a particular feeling for railroad and for railroading, and I want to see it here. It's kind of like we were discussing before the show. Do most West Coasters do all primarily SP things?
Right,
and I asked,
right.
do most Upper Midwesterners do mostly BN things or something like that? And it's like, I have a feel for the BN times back when I was an Upper Midwesterner. I love SP things out here in this coast. And it's kind of fun watching people with different preferences doing their thing.
It was this culture shock going to the Springfield Amherst show last year and looking at hundreds of vendors, so many huge layouts, and there was no one buying or selling Great Northern or Union Pacific or Southern Pacific. I'm like, holy cow, there's no railroads like west of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
And then I found like the New Haven, and it was all these New Haven guys, and I'm like, oh, those are the Great Northern guys of this area,
Right.
And I'm sure like the SP guys, oh, those are the Great Northern guys. But yeah, it was culture shock. I was like, because here at our shows and flea markets, it's all Great Northern, NP, Burley. None of that was there. It was like, wow, I'm on a different planet, I even think Michelle Kay, when first time she went out there, and she was all excited to look for Union Pacific stuff in the big boy. And she's like, nobody had a Union Pacific.
She told that story on this show when she
that's what it was. Yeah,
the show, and she said that she couldn't believe when she went to Amherst there was no Union, like there's no Union Pacific, but Union Pacific is all we see. It's like, right, it's all you see.
She's like, oh, the big boys out there. I remember that's what she talked about that. I'm like, it can't be like that. And then I'm like, Michelle's right.
Yeah,
Michelle's absolutely right. There's nothing here,
We got a question from someone who's asking, Otter Creek in Rio Grande is asking, what were some of the biggest fears in the hobby that you overcame? And I'd like to answer that because I don't work off of a fear principle like some people do. I'm just like, when I have time, I'll do it. But I can tell you that the hardest part of any project that I have, whether it's in the hobby or any project, is just getting started. For me, once I get started, I enjoy whatever it is I do. And I think it may just be an attitude of appreciating what you're doing. I don't know. But getting started for me is always it, because maybe it is fear. I'm afraid to get started because then I have to finish, because I'm a very task-driven person. I have to finish stuff. So, but that's my biggest fear, if you want to call it that I overcome, is just getting started with something. What about you, Tom? You should hit that one too.
People finish projects in this hobby. I would.
Well, I mean, we have a whole slew of people just in this area where if you walk into their layout room, you have to watch where you're stepping, because all the unfinished projects are falling out from under the layout.
Right. Are you talking about my place?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of them, probably.
Yeah. And so here's how fear is relative, right? I always have a fear that what I make and what I do in model is not good enough, because I'm comparing myself to these people, to me, what the people, my idols in the hobby, this and this. And yet I've got all these other people like, I wish I had this. Have you seen the split rock? Have you seen this and this? And so it's kind of been my thing to get over that fear, that realizing like, okay, maybe I am okay, because I was trying to learn more at my age and stuff, but I've always had a fear that this isn't good enough. I'm looking at other people, scratch build stamp mills, and I'm like, oh, I can't do that. This guy, but I think that's what it is, measuring yourself. And here's me, got to eat my own medicine here about comparison. Yeah.
So yeah, I have no real, I don't know that I'd call them fears, other than sometimes I got a brand new loco and I really want to weather it. Oh my God, I got to push the button, and I hope I don't screw that up. But mostly I have things that it's a measure of how far will I kick the can down the road before I begin doing that part of this. Right. It's a real procrastination problem, I think, for me at times.
And I think that what you just said, I hear from probably 6 to 10 people in my group. You bought this beautiful museum quality engine, DCC, and they're like, I don't want to weather it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing this. And I always look at them, I'm like, go to the next flea market. We call it flea markets, trade show. Buy 10 Tyco engines for $1. Paint them the color or whatever you have of red or yellow or black, and weather those to your heart's content.
Yeah.
You wreck them, pull out the spray can, paint them. And I'm like, you don't have to learn on your museum quality, train. You could get out the old Tyco shell and start. That didn't work. That didn't work. That works. But yeah, I understand that people have a fear of, taking it out of that clamshell container and dirtying it up. That's one of the biggest ones I hear.
Yeah.
I've thought about that too. Like, if you're afraid to mess up a car or a locomotive or something by weathering it and you haven't really weathered before, there's a very simple solution, which is to practice on some cheap stuff. I mean, how many times as a matter of fact, if you look over to the side here, the graphic on the top, which is the basic weathering techniques video that I referred to earlier, that's a $3.50 car that I bought new 20 years ago. And I just kept it around and kept it around. And finally, when I decided I wanted to try weathering stuff, I took it and hey, there it is. And I learned a lot doing it and had a lot of fun doing it. So.
Exactly. Yeah. We do something in the Twin Cities division called Skills Day. Uh-huh. And it's a whole day, 4 or 5 hours. We get a place of hands-on, I'll say clinics, but it's also, so like we have like tables set up for different things. One of them's weathering, but we don't have one person. I'm not going to stand up and tell everyone how to weather. We sit around the table and people bring their stuff, and we got these shells free from the NMRA boxcar shells, and we painted them up 20 different colors and let everybody try weathering. And everybody at the table can tell us how they did it. And you're just practicing on these free boxcar shells.
Yep.
Right.
Well, let me try panel line wash. Let me try powders. Let me try, and it's like no one cares. But it's a wonderful way to beat that fear. hey, here's the sponge you want for chipping.
Well, it's
It's
a
so
low,
good to have that hands-on learning.
yeah, it's a low cost and low risk way to get some practice and figure out how. The way I look at it is, this is the canvas, and I'm finding out how these different mediums, if you will, interact with my canvas. I mean, it's
Well,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
second part of fear on weathering, as far as I'm concerned, is oh, am I done now?
Yeah.
yeah.
Because as Mike said in one of the previous casts, some people end up weathering to the point where we would be scrapping it.
Yeah. Well, and I mentioned that.
Yeah.
Actually, I mentioned that on this video, the basic weathering techniques, which was, you have to decide when you're done with it, right? Because, and I'll make it another analogy with art. And there's this comment, and I don't know where it came from. It might be Michelangelo or one of these famous artists from a long time ago, who said that art is never finished. It's only abandoned. So when I did the boxcar you see up there, I mean, after I did the wash on it, because I did I did wash, and I think I did weathering powders and then colored pencils. And of course, dull coat in between to seal what I liked.
Yeah.
But my point is, after I did the wash, I was looking at it going, this is good enough. I mean, I could be happy with this.
Yeah.
But I kept going because the video wasn't just how to do a wash. It was going to be more than just that. So I kept going. And at the end of the video, I said that it's like, I could still do more. Like, I could add some dust to the bottom of the car. If you look, it doesn't have a lot of road dust,
Right.
like what you'd see if it had been rolling through a desert somewhere or any barren place. But I'm like, I could keep going for another 4 days and I'd still find something else that I could do to it. But this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to show some basic techniques.
Yes.
It looks better than it did when I pulled it out of the box. That's what I wanted. And here it is.
Yep.
Right.
So
My wife and I have that slogan, and I use it all the time, is you can always do more.
Right.
You can always do more next time. You can walk away, run it on your layout and go, I got to add something on the end. And then, as a prototype railroader, locomotive engineer for 20 years, when I was a young fireman, the old heads taught me this. They, you have this 2-mile long train, 15,000 tons, and you're like, I got to get this thing. They'd say, do something little and see how the train reacts, right? Like, give it a notch, give it some time, put a little bit of air on the brakes, give it some time. One thing, do something little and then wait for the reaction, have the patience to, and maybe that's what, you're going to weather up your cars, looking at that boxcar. Hey, you don't want to really go at it, take the wheels off and paint the wheels.
Well, and as
put it back on them,
as Robert says further in here, if you kind of mess up, it's all paint. You can always kind of patch something over.
right.
You can add some more damage to kind of cover up a place where something went slightly wrong. Also, as Robert mentioned in here, he'd said something about running the Western Pacific basically at a transition time. If you watch the SVL op sessions, we'd occasionally, every other month, we do a transition session where we'll run mixed steam and diesel. So I'm kind of familiar with that. One of the things we don't do that I'd like to see us end up doing, though, is actually handling the engines at each end of the run differently, because it is different.
Right.
That would be kind of cool to see. But
I'll give you my one tip too about weathering is, I found this product Testers makes it called ELO. It's for paint stripping, but if you just have a wide brush, you weather something like the box, and you run it down there, let it sit for 30 seconds and wipe it, just the weathering will come off.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I've removed it from my cabooses. I realized, well, my cabooses are a little too beat up and rusty. I want to go make it nicer.
Yeah.
Things like that. And then Murph, so I have a question, because we've had a couple clubs in our area that do the transition, right?
Right.
So I want to ask you, like, when you transition from like modern day double, or when you transition from steam era 40-foot boxcars to double stacks, is it painful at the club to rip up half the track and make a bike trail out of it? Is that kind of painful, or is that just?
Actually, the worst thing is basically everything from the yards gets run into holding areas, and
Yeah.
everything from the holding areas gets put back out, and it's just and it's every month. It's like, most of the times when you're doing continuous ops, you're just rearranging things that are already out there. For us, it's like each setup is resetting the railroad. And so that's a little extra hassle for the people that do that work. But yeah, it allows everybody to get their thing in. I just wish our modern was a bit more modern, quite honestly. It's like, yeah, it's a 10-year difference between our transitional and our modern. So
I think the Midwest Model Railroad Club, they're disbanded, but they used to do that, and they'd have people sponsor a session, right? So if your layout's set up for 50s, it's all brown boxcars, right? So then you would bring Western Pacific Steam and cabooses in the passenger trains, and they'd run the layout,
right.
And then if it was a modern day, everything looks alike anyway. So John could bring BNSF, engines and Amtrak power.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of a neat way to have your home layout at the club.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we going to advance the slide?
We're going to advance the slide because we're kind of covering everything as we go anyway.
Oh, oops.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. This is like all gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
I'm a crummy host, evidently. So this is good.
Yeah, I need to get someone different next time.
Yeah. Get somebody that actually rides herd on this thing. Okay.
Right.
See, Heath over here wants to be me. He wants to sit next to you.
Do I have to get to the East Coast for that, right?
Yeah, he's in New York or something.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That could be kind of fun. That'd be worthwhile.
I think he'd be a good referee for this. He's a good taskmaster.
I often want to get Heath to come on these shows, but I'm always afraid to ask because he's so busy.
I need to have Heath give me a crash course on electronic stuff because
Yeah.
he's doing a lot of interesting things.
But he's a New Yorker, so he ain't taking any crap from you guys or us flyover state guys. He
could probably eat a lot of donuts too.
Bagels probably.
Bagel. That's right. He's in New York. Bagels. Yeah. Well, or a certain type of bagels that starts with an F that I'm not going to.
Hey now.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
You said a family show, anyways.
It is. F is a family. Family starts with F. They're family bagels. Yeah.
I'm in the Midwest, so we could have a Kringle, and I know nobody knows what that is here. So
A what?
exactly.
Okay, never mind.
Say it in the comments if you've ever had a Kringle. So
a Kringle or a Kringle?
Kringle, Kringl. Yep, a Kringle.
Oh, I know what that is. It's those little pastries.
They're not little.
Well, it's a huge pastry, but you cut them into small. Hopefully, you cut them into small pieces because if you eat a big thing, it's too much.
Right.
I do know what that is. Yeah.
Cut them into portions.
I knew more than I thought, Murph. That's a first. Usually, I'm having to look stuff up because I don't know anything.
That's pretty good. You know what a Kringle is? That's a Midwestern thing right there. So.
Yeah. Well, they sell them at Trader Joe's. That's how I know.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. Do you have Trader Joe's where you live? Do you know what that is?
Yes, we do it. We have Piggly Wiggly and we have Trader Joe's. We have all that stuff. So
okay. So what's the?
We even have electricity. So
do you do?
That's why I'm here. So.
I wasn't thinking about that. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out if there's something on this particular slide that's worthy of comment
that we haven't basically beaten to death yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So advance the slides.
Advance the slide. Yeah.
Here we go.
Data, new products.
Yeah. And by the way, I went in and changed some of the pictures that were in the original slideshow, and I put my own stuff because I know I have permission to use it. I wasn't trying to self-promote here. I mean, we're on my channel for goodness sake. What more self-promotion could I do?
Right.
But this is this is again one of those things where I cover this one I think fairly thoroughly with a video every week.
To me, this kind of classifies almost in some cases into a news kind of show of these are the things upcoming in the industry, or this is what a prototype railroad is doing or did do. I mean, a lot of these series you did with Jack had to do with actual data from back when the railroad he was modeling was, which of course was part of the how to actually follow a prototype thing that I think is important as well. And then, of course, just notifications of upcoming events. So mostly that's like the last 5 minutes of a lot of your, monthly casts at least.
But I think there's some content creators that do this very well. And the number one person, of course, is Tony Cook.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's on, Ray's podcast monthly and things like that. But yeah, I do like, if you want to find out what's new, you can find it.
Oh, yeah, for
from
sure.
podcast or video casts. And they talk. I like this new age of where we actually have access to the manufacturers. Where Athern Jim comes on and does a show all the time.
Every Tuesday.
The guys from Soundtracks, they're now doing a podcast. They're so accessible that we know the people who make our trains by first name basis. Isn't that crazy?
Cool, isn't it?
Can you imagine talking to Irv Athern? What would that be like? But I like it. I like that they show up at train shows and you see their videos and you hear them on podcasts.
Yeah, they put themselves out there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the cool things about that to me is it really demonstrates the age that we're in. Having people accessible, and really that goes for us too. I mean, we put ourselves out there, Tom, in case anybody were to ever want to come on a show to show off some product or talk about some subject that they're passionate about. As long as I know you're not weird, weirder than me. Right. So that's setting the bar pretty low, I think.
Yeah. Weird in this hobby is kind of a whole scale. So it's just.
I think they call it a spectrum.
Yes. I wasn't going to go there, but you're right. So, I looked at like Otter Creek says, well, nobody has data in this. We did a show on narrow gauge, a podcast. I interviewed two guys that have probably some of the most beautiful narrow gauge. That's our most listened to podcast.
The narrow gauge one?
The narrow gauge one.
Yeah.
And here in the Twin Cities, Minnesota, we're hosting for the second time the National Narrow Gauge Convention.
Sure.
What a hotbed of narrow gauge Minneapolis is. So,
right.
But we have like maybe 12 to 15 narrow gauge layouts. So yeah, it's out there. I would love to have Otter Creek and everybody on here to talk about that, section.
I did a show that was all about narrow gauge on a series that I used to do that this one kind of replaced during the pandemic. It was called the Crew Lounge.
Oh,
and it was
nice.
it was all about narrow gauge. And I find narrow gauge pretty fascinating because there are so many sort of unique things, and the people that do the narrow gauge, I find also tend to be in many cases, the most talented modelers because they've had to scratch build so many things. It's just not available commercially, right?
It's like the S-scalers. You better be good. If you're signing up for that much pain, you better be good.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting that Heath mentioned that Irv Athern was a member of the New York Scale Model Engineers. And so they could get access to information all the time. And it's kind of like, this is the best thing about the internet. For a while, it seemed like you were either like one of the East Coast model railroaders or you were one of the people around the Walthers places in Milwaukee so that you could actually get real information about what was going on. Other than that, you'd walk into your hobby shop and just see what was there. It's really is a lot better now rather than just, I rub shoulders with this guy, so therefore I know.
Yeah.
That's
and
really
I think
cool.
they know that they have to come and talk to content creators.
They do.
No matter what, they're going to look at their platform and go, this guy's got 50,000 followers. Hey, would you like me to come on? This channel's got 100,000 followers. Hey, how about if we have a monthly thing? Why turn that down? Right?
Yeah.
In a way though, and I realize I'm coming from kind of a privileged position to say this, but if you're a manufacturer, for example, and you start your own podcast tomorrow, you're only going to have 50 viewers or 50, you might get up to 500 maybe by this time next year, depending what it is and how viral it gets.
Right.
They really, I think, underutilize, people like me who have a larger audience, because, you're going to see more, but it's like, I feel like they want to control the whole thing. So they're just going to do it their way.
Yeah.
And I've kind of, it's an interesting thing. Back about 6 or 7 years ago, I had a conversation with a guy named Chris Palomares. People know him. He used to be with Athearn, right? And he's now with Intermountain. And at the time, I was doing these videos that were critical reviews. It wasn't product spotlight. It was product review where, it would get a little nitpicked, check for coupler height or wheel gauge and all that kind of stuff. And I asked him, I said, is this something that manufacturers, does it help them? And he says, it does, but it would be more helpful to show just what comes out of the box and not nitpick it, simply because that's just one model out of a run of thousands of models. I don't know, because that's one thing that manufacturers tend to be pretty tight-lipped about, is how many they get run.
Yeah, that's and good for them. I'm glad
I found his feedback really helpful, because I thought, as a content creator, it's like, well, I'm going to be the consumer reporter on Channel 4 who criticizes stuff so people don't waste their money on junk or whatever, however consumer reports or however you want to.
You're going to be that restaurant review guy that everybody's scared of.
Don't go because the onion rings were soggy, whatever.
Right. Yes.
But after talking to him, after talking to him, I thought, that's true. I think it is a more informational thing, not to criticize something, but to just show what comes out of the box.
Right.
One of the things that I get criticized for now is people are like, oh, the price is too high. How can they charge that much for that? And the answer to the question, and I've started saying this on every Spotlight or N Scale Friday that I do, the answer to the question is, I am telling you the MSRP, and you almost never pay the MSRP. If you're paying MSRP, you need to shop somewhere else, because almost always, and I say almost because, we have a picture of an Atlas locomotive sitting there. Atlas is one of these companies, all the big ones, Atlas, Athearn, although Scale Trains doesn't do this, but, Bowser, Bachmann, all of the ones that have been around since forever have MSRPs, and the MSRPs are always, always higher.
Yeah.
So I've told people starting maybe a year ago, look, this is the MSRP. This is what they say, it should cost if you just go buy it and have no discounts. If you shop around, you'll find it for less. I tell you the MSRP because that's what's objective.
Right.
Doesn't change no matter where you shop. The MSRP is always the same. So I'm trying to be as objective as possible. That's also why I'm showing you under good light and close up what this thing is that came out of the box that I got. You can see the way it's shot. You can see if there's something wrong with it that you don't like. So you can decide for yourself if you think it's worth buying one for yourself. And would you be happy if this is what comes out of the box? But I've had people come, it's like, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? I'm doing it because I'm trying to give you just information. I'm not trying to give you something that's, picked or slanted one way or the other. And of course, I'm also trying to be positive because I know that the box I got is not the same box that you're going to get in Minnesota. It's a different model of the same run. So anyway,
that's great. The two things that I always find interesting, one, from what you've said, is they want to see the unboxing. Okay, my personal opinion, this is just Tom, this old split rock here. I can't stand unboxing videos. The only ones I like are Heath, because he makes it funny in the last 3 hours. But here's the product. I'm like, does it work? And cut open the box and this and bubble wrap and blah. And I'm like, I can't stand that. I'd rather watch you say this is what's wrong. And the other thing that I'm kind of not liking recently is when a manufacturer or the dealer is coming on to these content creator shows and it turns into an infomercial.
Yeah, I try to stay away from that too.
Yeah, and okay, I watch this guy to see this thing and visit layouts, whatever, and then the person they invite just takes it over and it's a 2-hour long infomercial. And I have so much trouble not being the troll that I am, but I'm trying to be kind, but yeah, I'd be wary of that. I think that's why I don't want to have sponsors or people on the crossing gate, because after so much time, I just start making fun of them. So I don't think that would work too well. So
Yeah.
But I do like that they're accessible, because I've gone to train shows. In Springfield, I sat there with George from Soundtrack, and he talked to me like we've known each other for 10 years. So
yeah. Well, George is just like that though, too.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Well, then he's a modeler, and he
He's a
actually runs
modeler.
the stuff
Modeler.
that makes all the difference.
He plays hockey, and that's, like
Yeah.
our religion here. So,
And he's a good modeler too. I mean, it's not like
Yeah.
he just does it to say he does it.
Yeah.
He's definitely one of the people that actually I was at the Bay Area Prototype Modelers Meet here. We have this RPM. That's just one day. It's like
it's classic.
right. It's like the second or third Saturday in June. And George actually came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm George from Soundtracks, and I want to show you some stuff." And he knew I was there making a video, so he also made sure that I showed his stuff. What is this one? Oh, see, now here's a great.
Now this JDT makes a really
Right.
good point here. That's the number one thing I want to know.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
how many of these things come out of the box have this problem, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That would be huge. So I don't know.
I'll make it go away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, JDT. That's
Yeah,
what I was thinking the whole time.
Yeah, that's Dave. If you hear me say Dave, that's usually who I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
All right. So next
okay.
slide. Let's
Let's-
get going. We got
slide.
50 more of these folks. Anyways.
Oh, we don't have that many. Yeah. Oh, here's. Hey, who's that guy?
Camaraderie.
I
Yes.
recognize most of these guys.
This is kind of like what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Basically, the things that actually get you together that make it fun. I went to my first in-person op session last weekend at Rick Fortin's place, and it was so nice seeing all my friends again. And that's what
you went
made
to
it
your
fun.
first op session. You
What's
mean in
it?
a long time, right?
In a long time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I know I've seen you at
No.
other op sessions.
Yeah, but not that often. And it's just like this. It's kind of a good reminder. This is why I'm here. And just getting out for lunch with people and talking trains is another thing. And even coming in here and talking to you all, it's like, yeah, this is part of what really makes it for me. So, and people that can actually cover this and give me a glimpse of that or a taste of that makes it fun.
Is that it?
That's it for me.
Do you have anything? Do you have anything to say about this, Tom?
Yeah, I think the camaraderie, we got to talk pre-show, and everything else is, as a content provider, as NMRA guy, we want to open up the tent to more. And I'll make this joke of, this is Model-Rarity in a nutshell. It's just middle-aged white guys wearing glasses. So
Wait,
just every picture. And the thing is to open it up to more people. Watch out for your clicks. We do this at meetings, NMRA meetings or anything we do. If somebody's new, I have representatives that are really good at this. They'll go talk to the new people and make them feel welcome. And at an op session, and we always say that too. Anybody, I want to come operate. We'll invite you. We'll invite you to the session. I can get Murph. I can get you to the session. It's up to you to be invited back.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've had podcasts on this that nobody cares how you operate. Nobody cares if you don't know a GG1 from a DD40. No, how are you as a person?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Are you a good person? Are you kind? Are you not criticizing? Are you just, So yeah, I mean, that's the camaraderie. This is the selling point to me of the NMRA, of clubs. And this is what we need, a TED Talk. I've been trying to talk to Gordian people. I said, we need a TED Talk and you need an elevator talk, right? I mean, if you had 3 minutes to tell us, why should I watch TSG Multimedia? And you're in an elevator, John, give me your 2-minute spiel on why this is so much better of a show, or you'll find what you want.
Right.
It's because of the
This
guest.
is what you sell. Yeah, it's because of that. But this is what to me sells.
You
And
better
it's so
sell.
hard to tell that.
You better send me some donuts now, Tom.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send you a Kringle. So
in answer to the question, I used to bring homemade wine a lot more. I don't know that I'd try it lately. My commute home has become kind of bad, and trying to navigate that while under the influence of wine is not my capabilities at all. I don't want to have a glass of wine at all before going into the car anymore. So
this goes back to the last slide in a sense, where Robert's saying that he doesn't want a product reviewer to go through the life story before they get to the product.
Right.
Yeah. And I think he's talking about the whole unboxing. I agree. I mean, that's funny because I've actually done some unboxings before, but it's only when I open the original, the first box and say, wow, this is cool packaging. I think I'll show it. Because otherwise everything's a clamshell or whatever. It's all the same packaging. Oh, yeah. Why show it? It's like, oh, here's bubble wrap. I've seen that before.
They put it in a box.
Now
it has a little plastic wrap thing on the top that you will lose.
I call it the Get Smart box. I think we're old enough to remember that show. I mean, I remember. Yeah. At the end of the show, he'd walk through like 4. I'm like, okay, you pull off this, then the top, then this slides out, then the. I'm just like.
And then the real question: can you remove the foam from behind the handrails without dislodging the handrails?
No.
Oh, I've got that down to a science.
Well, I used to play. As a kid, I'm old enough to play. We had played the Operation game, so I'm pretty good at that with the tweezers.
Butterfingers.
Yeah.
Oh man, the guy's nose lights up.
That's right. That was just anxiety. Why?
And it makes that startling buzzing noise.
Yeah.
Well,
trauma for Gen X here. So it's just between that and Jarts. I don't know how he survived, but
here, catch.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So how do you sell this? How do you bottle this? Because I know we'll go back to the NMRA Club. We're putting that. Okay, here's all our partnership programs, so you get discounts. And I'm kind of like, well, we're not Costco. It's nice that membership should have its benefits, but I always think this is the biggest the friends you make and the networking. It's like, well, I can't find out anything about this. Well, come to a meeting. I'm sure we'll find somebody.
Well, actually,
models that.
So Thomas and John, you guys are the ambassadors that actually show how this works. Your shows will be the actual advertisement. They will be the catch. They will be the I want me some of that. If it's done right.
I like that.
Yeah. I think this is a huge part of what you guys do.
I think the greatest compliment, Mike Jordan, if he's still here, but he's had other people have said this to the guys in my crew, that I listen to your show and during portions of it, I want to make a comment.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I want to. All right, I'm just listening to this, and I think that's probably one of the greatest comments that people are feeling, that they're part of the conversation, that we're talking about something that matters to them or is humorous, or that's striking a chord.
That's what I was trying to say earlier when I said it's like being there with your buddies, but you just don't get to talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is hard for me because I always have something to say.
Right.
Really cool if we could do if you guys could do the live at the convention thing with a group and actually have them interact in that way. That'd be cool, even though it's only text. But we're still doing it here, so it still works.
We did that one at a convention, but I'm so lousy at audio, I needed Heath. But John at some convention or the BAPM, it'd be great to have like a panel. And then have people ask questions, and then be part of it. They're right there. Hey, ask us anything you want.
It's interesting that you should mention that, because actually on every hybrid event that we do, when I say we do, I mean Sydney and I have volunteered to almost anybody who wants it to go and produce a hybrid portion to their event. Right. So we've had PCR conventions. We have our annual, what we call the SIG meet, which is the Layout Design and Operations Weekend, which I don't know if you've been to, Tom, but that's one of the things that I've been kind of plugging on the podcasts recently. It's a group that we get together, and it's a weekend of everything that we've been talking about: camaraderie, inspiration, all that stuff, information, of people who are into layout design and operations. And it's a good way for people to learn about operations if they don't have a local group that they can get in with. But what I was going to say about it is that Sydney and I do the hybrid portion, the virtual portion,
Yes.
and we ask she asks the questions because it's a hosted room where she's the host. And if somebody in the chat asks a question, we can't have it come up on screen like we do here on these shows. But she raises up a thing that says there's a question from online, and she asks a question on behalf of you to the live presenter. And we do that on all of these hybrid events that we do. And it's something that the people who go to them seem to really appreciate, because they are actually interacting. She's the proxy, obviously, or the proxy.
Right.
And
the go-between.
Yeah, but they're getting to interact with the people who are live in the room by having her ask the question, which is really cool.
Yeah. So I've done that, but let me ask you a question, because I've had this chat with Heath mostly. He's in the
he doesn't know what he's talking about.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. Have you run into, I'm going to use this word, I don't know if everyone knows, have you run into gatekeepers that say, no, no, if we're going to do that, we have somebody for that or this or that? Because I feel that's still part of the NMRA is got too many gatekeepers that
to
they're
answer your
protecting
question,
certain things here.
To answer your question, Tom, yes. And
Okay.
sadly, some of these gatekeepers are in positions to really make the wrong decision when it comes to doing these virtual events. And I don't know what their problem is, because this is a whole different show, to be honest, but I'll make this quick statement, which is we're doing what we're doing by volunteering to make these events hybrid, really for all the what I consider the right reasons, meaning there are a lot of people in our region who can't come. They're hampered by mobility issues. It's very expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Traveling places and staying overnight is very expensive. And it, frankly, is sometimes a pain in the butt, especially if there's a storm that weekend or something. You don't want to be on the road, whatever the case, okay? And so we're trying to make it as inclusive as possible. And those gatekeepers that you're referring to, if I'm understanding your question right, are trying to keep it as exclusive as possible.
Yes.
Well, we don't have the time or the patience to deal with trying to make something virtual. Oh, it's too much work. It's easier to say no than it is to say yes.
Or they don't, we don't really know who you are, and we don't know what you're going to do. You'll have to run it by this guy or that person or whatever, and we'll have a committee meeting and then we'll vote, and and because I think it's genius. I mean, our division, our meetings on January and February are online because it's Minnesota.
Yeah,
I don't know who wants to drive all over a major metropolitan area. And I loved when you had the PCR, I better say who you guys had that during COVID, the virtual convention that people like me in flyover states could buy a ticket and attend these, right? And I thought, oh, there's the prototype. This is what it's going to be going forward. These breakout rooms, all this stuff. And it just hasn't taken off. And my only answer I've seen are these gatekeepers.
It is largely the gatekeepers. And to answer, really, it is happening. Most of our events that we've had out here since Rails by the Bay 2021 have been hybrid events. As a matter of fact, I think all but maybe one of our regional conventions have been hybrid. And here's the other thing. It's very frustrating because we're donating our time and expertise and all the equipment to do this. It costs the organization virtually nothing. I say virtually because if it's far away, I will say, you got to put us up to do it, because I can't justify paying to volunteer, because when we do this, we're taking 4 or 5 days of productive time out of our schedule and doing nothing but work the whole time. We're not going as attendees to enjoy the convention. We're going because we believe that we want to bring the convention to everybody who can't go, because it's, at least to me, that's what I think we should be doing as an organization, as a region, is being as accessible and providing as much value to the membership as possible.
Right. And I think that's a product that you have to beforehand, and you do this, John, you do this well, is talk to the people running the thing. Right now, as the superintendent of the Twin Cities division, when we have an event, if I put it live, I don't have to ask anybody. I'm not. Like I said, we talk about our skills day. I went live on TikTok. I brought my gimbal around, put it on my phone, and showed everybody. And they're like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, we're live." I said, "There's like 50, 60 people watching, and they want to know how you're weathering that."
Yeah.
And I just think that some people are protecting a product or a brand name, which I understand, because they're like, well, what are you going to show? Are you going to have people badmouth this on, but I think that's where you have to earn people's trust and say, listen, this is the product. We're going to do this live. We'll make a recording and you'll have control of, it's your event if you want to post it or not, or else you just show up and say, hey, this is TSG. We bought tickets to the convention. We're going here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to do what we do, you need a little bit more planning than just showing up with your phone, because it's more of a pro shot production.
Right.
But I do believe, though, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just think I'm more important than I am, but I'm pretty sure most people in the region know who I am, just simply because of all the layout videos I've shot in the past 10 years,
Right.
So
right.
I don't perceive it as a trust issue with us as much as I perceive it as an operating out of fear procedure on their part, because when you have your event at a hotel or whatever, you have to fill so many rooms, or else you have to pay this much, or it's all these little things that they negotiate. And the misperception is that if you have a virtual event, somehow it's going to cause someone like Murph, who can afford to go and will be there if he can, because he wants the in-person experience. Somehow it's going to cause him to go, oh, I think I'll just call in and do the virtual one because I don't want to. And our research and our feedback from all the people that we've had on our virtual conventions is that no, the fact of the matter is that you lose them completely if you don't do virtual.
Right. Oh, I agree.
So really what we're doing in two ways, we're building a larger attendance for the convention, because you're including all the people who can't go that are members of the PCR, for example. But something that they also don't think about is it's anybody with an internet connection can attend. So, and we have people from Canada, Australia, the UK, out, and also completely out of state. We've had people from Texas and Georgia come to our virtual events. Do you think they're coming to a PCR convention? I don't. So anyway, it's a soapbox issue for me, and it's something that I deal with, because every year it's like having to convince one of these convention committees to do this because it's the right thing to do. And it's every year having to sell it again as if they've never heard any of these things before. And it's very frustrating. And so,
yeah. And even the basics of, and I've talked to you and Sydney, and you guys volunteered to help me. You're very kind and generous. Is at one of these things, all these wonderful clinics. And I'm of the mind that all of these should be recorded and saved, because otherwise we're gatekeepers on the information.
Oh, okay.
And I, like I said, at our modelers retreat, we have 8 clinics, prototype and model. I would love to have those on the Twin Cities Division YouTube channel. I think, hey, here's Joe Binish talking. He's a professional painter, what he uses for tape and stuff. And I even think, like, one time we had a regional convention way in the middle of North Dakota. I couldn't make it, but I created a video that they showed in a room, and then I did a Q&A after. So it's there to use, but it just hasn't caught on. So that's my question. Is it gatekeepers, or is it, is it the money? Is it the product? Is it they don't know what we're doing? And I think that's something for especially you, John, to find the answer, to survey that, maybe talk to Gordy and other regional and other vice presidents of, like, why is there so much pushback to making every convention a hybrid convention?
Yeah, there's definitely resistance for sure.
Well,
Is it the money? Maybe it is the ticket, but I'm like, okay, well, let's sell a video ticket.
and again, the thing that you guys could bring to this is the level of camaraderie.
And we do.
That, you can't do by just publishing a PDF on a website after the fact, go read it. That's kind of dry. It's not very exciting. It doesn't engage. And really, these things for me give me some worth in my NMRA membership. Being able to actually see these things, even if I can't attend for whatever reason. And if I can't attend, yay, so be it. So anyway, I just like to see them be even more interactive personally.
Right.
And, I think part of the camaraderie thing, it's not just a Q&A. It's kind of the discussion like we're having now, and then people add into it rather than just asking a question. So we're dealing with comments as much as we are Q&A, because that's actually camaraderie.
The chat's having a good old time over here.
I've been watching.
I think a few of them are drinking, but that's okay.
That's fine.
They fit right in with us.
Yeah, they don't have to drive home like me.
They don't know what's in here, so I'm just.
There we go. Okay, I'm moving on here.
Yep.
And this, I think, should probably be about the
We're getting close to the end, I
final
think.
slide. Yeah.
Is it though? Let me see that.
I think so.
You should know. You made the slide deck.
Yeah, you made the
Oh,
slide.
no, there's more.
Holy cow!
What?
there's more.
Let's go. I think we talked about this.
I think we talked about this. I think everybody got it. It's the whole, learn from other people's misery. Always a good way to do it.
Right.
Much better than your own misery sometimes.
And make fun of it
you.
too. Okay.
This is all about you, Murph.
Yeah. So anyway, as a consumer of all this stuff, it really depends on my mood, what I need whether I need inspiration to get my butt moving on another project finally. Been putting it off long enough, or sometimes it's a matter of, I've been hung up on that, but how does somebody else do this? The instruction parts, or maybe I can find an easier way to do this. I've been thinking, I might just open up a drink and sit back and watch, like evidently some people get to in our audience here. And that's part of the camaraderie thing. And sometimes it's a matter of, hey, I'm really doing things in my layout room, and it's good noise to kind of keep me going along. I actually have a TV set up in my layout room because I watch a lot of YouTube. And occasionally it's like, that's cool.
Oh, that's it.
That's it.
Oh,
Well, going back to inspiration, my comment on that is don't box yourself in, right? And
Yeah.
We'll bring up everybody's favorite topic tonight, weathering. So, I'm learning how to weather this thing. Don't go to the model railroad guys, right? Go look at the military guys.
oh yeah.
Go look at the Warhammer guys. Go, open up like, okay,
He
how
is
do
the
you do
military
that?
guy.
Right, they're military guys. I've gone to
The Warhammer.
modeling shows. They have a thing called Nordic Con here where people bring models, and it's a huge room of everything but trains. I brought trains this year, and everybody's like, what the heck? So
Yeah, they probably thought you were a real weirdo.
they did. I was a real weirdo. But then all of a sudden one guy pulls me aside. Did you see my truck? And he had this tow truck or work truck of the Great Northern. His dad worked for the Great Northern.
Awesome.
Great Northern. So like there were people pulling me aside. Did you bring the train?
I thought you were going to say. Hey, I thought you were going to say he pulled you aside and said, "Your kind's not welcome here."
Yeah, it's a door. You're out. But no, I think if you're going to look for inspiration, find it everywhere. It might be on another podcast, hopefully not a true crime podcast. Hopefully, but find somebody who speaks your language, or look at Luke Tolan.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a layout, doesn't operate, doesn't do this, but he's been such an inspiration on building things.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
A lot of people. And I love that guy because he shows his mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that helped me the most when he made this module of a river and melted it because the 2-part epoxy heated up and he just had foam. And I'm like, oh crap, that's how I'm making mine. I'm over there coating the foam. Then,
Not anymore. It's not.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So,
yeah. Even some of the model wargaming guys talk about tow and stuff. I've been taking classes for that stuff, and having people come in from Europe to teach an airbrushing class or something like that at my local hobby shop, which, because it'll be applicable for me all the way down to my model railroading to do the weathering and all that kind of stuff. So it's cool. Like you say, many different avenues to get the information you need.
Well, this is the time. The last slide we had was audience Q&A. I mean, I know we've been kind of taking these all along, but this is a great time. If anybody has specific questions for anybody sitting on the screen here.
I see Dave's asking, I will not be at Train Fest.
Oh, I thought he meant Thomas the Tank Engine. I'm sorry. The whole time he's saying that, I'm like, why does he keep asking about Thomas the Tank Engine? He's talking about you. Oh, jeez.
Let me change my icon. I got a Thomas. We'll
There
put
we
up there.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. I would have asked you sooner if I realized what he was talking about.
Yeah. My wife used that in a video. It was kind of funny, but that's my current schedule allows me Wednesdays and Thursdays. That's my weekend. So,
well, I'm glad that we had this on a Wednesday so that you could be here. I think that's great. It's not your fault, Dave. Dave's apologizing. It's not your fault, Dave. That was all me for not like Thomas is on the damn show. Like, what am I thinking? Of course.
No.
Yeah. I've had
because I'm Split Rock, so it's just
oh, maybe that's why. Because if someone said Split Rock, I'd know right away.
Yeah.
Oh, now what's this?
Oh, okay, Heath.
Yeah, he's just doing that. He'll probably never answer.
Does Heath or Sparky win the troll of the video award? Who gets to be the?
Oh no, I want both of those guys on every stream. They do such a great job.
We need a trophy like for the troll of the show.
It just keeps it going.
Well, but though, sometimes even if the intention, which I don't think it is to be, if the intention is to be a troll, they have comments usually that I'm like, oh, that's a good question, or it sparks something in my brain.
Right.
See what I did there? Sparks something in my brain that makes me think of something I haven't talked about, and anyway, so, but yeah, this is great though. I've had a really good time, and this happens on every show. We get to talking and I lose track of time, and it's like, we've been talking for an hour and a half already.
Right.
It's amazing. So
yeah. Well, the podcasts I record, I'm trying to get like 30, 45 minutes, but it's 2 hours. I cut it off and then everybody acts for an hour.
Right.
That's where I get all the outtakes from, because people finally let their guard down and start calling each other names. But
yeah. So this is a question that's totally irrelevant. He wants to know what this thing is. So what this thing is this thumb is messed up. Now watch, I'll take the thing off and it won't do it, but oh no, it's doing it. Can you see how it's kind of snapping into place? This is something called trigger finger that happens when there's inflammation on either the tendon or the little tube that the tendon runs through. And it causes, where this one's nice and smooth because it doesn't have any inflammation, this one clicks into place because there's a ball of material trying to go through a little
It's not
tube.
communicable, is it?
No.
Wow, Murph, that's a big word.
So, yeah, I'll have to get I got to get my dictionary out to look up what he just said. Yeah.
Can I catch it?
Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, so this thing on here is called a thumb splint, and it doesn't allow the thumb to do this. It keeps it in place, and it's supposed to help.
Oh, you can. Okay.
This has been going on now for a few months, actually, and I'm just,
John, you're regressing. You no longer have opposable thumbs, so you're going down in a phylum or species there. It's just kind of
it's really frustrating. The problem actually is in here. The tendon that's doing this is inside this part, and they said at the doctor, because I've talked to the doctor twice about this now. That's how long it's been going on. That I can get a shot right here, an injection of, I think, some kind of a steroid or something to make the inflammation reduce, or they can cut it open and snip the little sleeve to make that ball of stuff go in and out easier. It's very.
Thanks for that question, Heath. Thanks a lot. So, anyway, what's a Z-LED? Let's go. Because I thought Led Zeppelin too. Somebody asked about what's a Z-LED.
Z-LED. I don't know what that is.
You have to describe it, I think, though.
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah, because I know about
Robert?
Led Zeppelin. Yeah,
Yeah,
what is
I like Led Zeppelin.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, John Bonham influenced my playing, as a matter of fact.
Why, you want to die or what?
No. My playing.
I
not
know.
dying. Yeah.
I missed when you played the drums and your former buddy played. That was kind of a cool video when you guys were.
Yeah, we had a lot of. Well, I had a lot of fun recording that album with him too. It was really fun.
That was really cool.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll say, that it took such a long time, but I think he did a good job producing it. Like, everything sounded really good.
It's your birthday tomorrow, Thomas?
Yes, I turned,
birthday
I turned
coming up.
29.
The 29th or the 21st?
No, I turned 29. So it's
I thought you were saying
that's
something.
cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, happy birthday.
You must have been born the same year as my wife.
Oh, right.
yes.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
it's like he really is 29. It's just working for the railroad is very stressful. So this is what he looks like.
That's what you look like. This is what it does to you, the railroad.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
funny.
Otter Creek says your street cred went up because you're a drummer.
Oh, well, I used to be a drummer. I don't claim to be one anymore because I just don't do it anymore.
How does banging on pots and pans improve your street cred? I don't know what that does, but
It depends how hard you hit the things.
that's
though.
right. Well, at least he's not an accordion player, so
That would definitely be a strike against.
or a banjo. Okay,
Yeah, I think accordions, bagpipes is
bagpipes.
yeah. So
You know what you
it's ironic because back when I was in sales and was making a bunch of money, unlike now, I actually purchased at the time the top of the line digital drum kit. And it's this special thing that was made by a company called Roland that has mesh heads that it plays a lot like real drums, and all the sounds in it are sampled. So it has what we refer to as a brain. So right there, it's completely different from me. But the brain has like 100 different drum kits in it that you can dial up, and you can mix and match the sounds from all the different drum kits to create your own custom ones too. But the coolest thing about it is that it does what we call multi-track recording. This is going to go over a lot of people's heads.
I'm just like, this is as bad as the LCC clinic. So
But
meanwhile,
look, I have an audience because Otter Creek knows the drums I'm talking about. So the one I have is the TD20 SX, and if I remember right, it was like $7 or $8 grand, or maybe 10 at the time. It was very, very expensive. But what it allows me to do is very, very clean multi-track recordings. So anybody who's done any kind of audio production at all knows that drums are very difficult to get clean mixes of because they're so loud. Acoustic drums are so loud that you get what we call bleed. That's where this microphone that's supposed to get just this drum is hearing all the other drums that you're hitting because they're so loud. So the other drums are bleeding into that track that this one. Anyway, so it can solve that problem. The only thing is that you're limited to the drums sounds that are in it. I think there's some way to record your own drum sounds, but I'm too stupid to figure that out. And anyway.
You've woken up Eve now.
Hey, it's something I was passionate about, so I just
all this from an LED question. How far did we?
What is this
Actually,
LED thing?
So Robert says it's a tiny LED, 0.068.
Let's put it up and see what it says.
Is it a nano? Is it a?
So
they're tiny LEDs.
Go to Evans Designs, and you'll learn all about powering LEDs and nano.
I'm curious, Robert, what are you trying to use them for?
Yeah, it sounds like surface mount stuff to me.
Most of that stuff.
The SMDs.
Back in the day, what's his name? Monster Rail used to do this thing about soldering magnet wires to surface mount LEDs, and I'm like, I will fry that thing.
I've actually done it.
I have done a couple because Dakota was putting some things to. One of our members at SVL was putting them together for our handmade signals. There were hid signal stand-ins, and it's like, oh, you just do this, and it's like, oh, good. Can I have another LED, please? I burned mine.
Yeah, it's easy to destroy your surface mount LEDs if you're trying to solder magnet wires on them.
And these are the people that won't apply for their electronics achievement program certificate. I don't know what I'm doing, but I got this signal system. I completely,
I think if you can show that you can solder magnet wires to a surface mount LED,
Right.
that should get you the damn certificate.
yeah, it's a check right there.
Yeah, just
Move
that
on.
alone.
Yeah, move on.
Yeah. And now Robert, I think he fell asleep because he's not answering what he's trying to do with it.
I think we bored him with the drum talk. He's like,
Oh, he checked out because
Could
I was
be.
talking drums.
he's
Oh,
gonna,
well.
he's gone to the Warhammer podcast to find out
Yeah.
there.
We're gonna have to. I'll have to do a separate drumming video on TSG channel 3. Oh, here we go. Backhead. What's a gang?
Gang lights, maybe?
Gang lights? I don't know what a gange is.
It's not a gange, it's a club. Wait a minute here.
I think somebody's hands are just a little off center here. Is that
Have to
really
learn
what
the
you
gang signs.
See, now we're gonna have to wait for another 5 minutes
know.
for him to answer the question.
So, anybody else have a question?
Right.
No one cares. Warhammer speak, yeah.
No,
Well, one of the things I wanted to bring up was like you talk about these videos and podcasts, and I've heard people say, "Well, there's too many Model Road podcasts," and I'm like, Warhammer has to have like 50 podcasts or more, and I think there's room for everybody.
yeah.
I kind of have. I've had chats with other podcasters when they've run into problems, like no one's listening. I said, "Well, unsolicited." They asked, so I told them. I said, "You're podcasting about the basics. You're talking to if someone's never had a model train before. Those people aren't going to listen to a podcast. They're going to go to a video or they're going to do something else." So,
Yeah, I don't know. I sometimes though the easy answer is the right answer, which is to me, and again, I don't think I'd ever say this to somebody, but I would say something along the lines of, well, what are you doing your podcast about?
yeah.
And how does it really sound? Because those are two things that will drive people away. If it's unlistenable because you don't know what you're doing or you have no idea about audio production, you might be better off just listening to the crossing gate instead.
So Robert came back and he said gauge lamps. Is that like the ones you put on trucks?
Oh, he's talking about I think he's talking about in the inside of the engine.
Oh, got it.
Are you talking about a super detailed interior? There, I have asked him another
He also
question.
goes for SP lights.
Everybody wants to see the N scale amp meter on that control. I'm sure that.
Well, and I've actually seen really cool, super detailed interiors on locomotives that light up that look really good.
That'd be amazing.
So
But
that might be
it's a lot of dedication. Holy cow.
Yeah, but they're never lit up. It's always in the dark and we're sleeping. So it's just kind of.
Oh, rooftop markers.
SP.
Maybe he's talking about the beacons.
Oh, okay.
Because SP had beacons. I don't know that they had those flashy deals that the commute trains have on them. Some commute trains.
I thought SP had that Mars light or Pile light. I'm probably just started a good argument in the comments now.
Because you didn't use the correct term.
Right, it's a Pile
Mars.
light. It's a Mars light. It's a.
I think it's a gyrolite, isn't it?
Yeah, there we go. See.
Yeah. See,
Yeah, Murph's already getting in on
fueling
it.
the fire.
That should have been
Here
on
we had such camaraderie going. Now you're
Right.
just going a little flame.
We said WWE earlier, right? Where's the?
Well, I think though that there's a difference, right? Because a gyrolite, I think, does a figure 8, and then the Mars light just does an oval type look, or maybe it's the other way around. But there is a different.
And I thought one was on the UP and the other one was on SP.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, or maybe it was.
and now Heath asked, "What about should you multicast?" And we asked that about the beginning of this because I was going to go live on TikTok.
Did you not do it?
I did not. No, I didn't do it. I'll go live on TikTok after this and see. But yeah, I think if you're going to do a show live, get it out there.
Why not put it everywhere, huh?
Yeah, Twitch to Facebook to whatever.
And StreamYard, which is what I use here, will allow me to do, I think, 3 or 4 different destinations.
Right.
But the only 2 that I'm really interested in, because that's where my audience is here and Facebook.
Right.
I have an audience on Facebook that's close to 13,000 or something. And then here, of course, it's like 68,000 or 67,000. But for some reason, I can't dual cast into Facebook. Every time I try to do it, there's some issue. And I really...
They've clamped down on that.
Oh.
Everybody else, I get these notices from StreamYard that Facebook, to me, I'm probably wrong. I'll let Heath, has a certificate.
Oh.
That they're calling, and you have to renew this, because we used to simulcast on YouTube and then to the division page and everything. And
well, but I did do that. It said something like your thing is going to expire unless you renew it, and I did renew it, and it says congratulations, you're hooked up again. And I haven't tried to do it again lately. I'm figuring I'll just start in 2025. I'll just start going to both places, at the same time, if it'll work.
So here's my question on that. Next question is, he says,
you
have 50,000 and 60,000 followers, right?
15.
Okay, 15,000. And then what was the other number?
Close to 70.
Close to 70. Why do we have 40 people here?
I have no idea. It might be the time, but I can tell you this, that a lot of people are going to pick this up on the replay.
Do they? Okay, I think that's what it goes. It's got legs. Your show has legs. I've looked that up. I'm like, only 40 people watch, and I'll look at the end of the month. I'm like, 8,000 views.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It definitely picks up, and it also depends what we talk about.
Right.
This one actually seemed to be pretty popular, because usually it only hovers around 30.
Yeah.
When we're doing it live.
And on the West Coast, we start up at 4:00 in the afternoon, which a lot of people aren't home from work at.
Right. That's a tough timing thing too.
Yeah.
Because I've always been jealous of. We were going to talk about making a bigger tent, like the youth in the hobby, and everybody laments that NMRA and other. We got to do more for the kids, and I'm like going back to bands, The Who, with dead drummers. I like the kids are all right. I look at SMT, and SMT mainly. He does live streams, and he gets like 200-300 people in there.
Yeah,
just going crazy, watching trains go around in circles.
His channel has really exploded.
Yeah, he's got videos with 1 million views. The NMRA would kill for that.
Do you know what I think? The reason why I think
maybe if I danced on the table or something, we'd get it.
Yeah, then we'd be 3 people
watch that, kind of like people want to watch a train wreck. Yeah, you're not gonna believe this. You have to see it to believe it.
Viral video.
Yeah, I think SMT has something going that he found worked, which was making the things run. He does a lot of, how do I get this old Tyco engine running again? Right.
Oh, everything what the youth does. So he's got like a $3 engine.
Yep.
Which they can afford, this AHM RS2. That we'd practice weathering on for 3 years, and he makes it run. And that's so relatable. Yeah. And I've tried to tell, other people in MRA, I said, this is what we need to do. If we're at a train show, we don't have to have a booth there trying to do the NMRA, whatever, because people just come over and ask, where do I sell my dad's trains? That's all they ask. We need like a fix-it booth. Have the guys bring whatever tools they got, and we tell them, if you're coming to the show, bring your broken engine, bring your kids broken. We'll fix it. We'll try to fix it.
Right. Don't overpromise. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
But because I could bring something in you wouldn't be able to fix, and I would do it on purpose.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
And then I demand a refund.
Then
real life
done yet? Is it done yet?
Yeah. I want to talk to the manager.
Yeah. This doesn't run. You can't make it run, John. This is a wooden Brio train.
Right. Can't you install a motor in it?
I soldered a decoder in it. That's good, John. Just keep pushing it too.
Just push it right out of the throat.
Yeah, just push it.
All right. Okay. Well, it seems like we're running out of comments and insults and comments on the thing. So, and plus we've been going for 2 hours.
Yeah. Yes, and they said Heath is coming on. We can't interrupt our control.
Okay, well we should step aside.
We should close up here.
Step aside for Heath.
Thanks a bunch, guys. Yeah, this is good.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Murph, for being. He was the best host ever.
He was.
And I'd like to thank myself for not talking too much. And one last thing, Dave keeps telling me to talk about Max. I think he's talking about Max, the rail dog that died recently. And that's a whole different topic. We could probably do a whole show on Max, the rail dog, if we wanted to. It's a guy I think who lives in. I want to say he lives in Wyoming or Colorado. I don't remember which. And he would take his dog everywhere with him. He was a trucker. He was like a long haul trucker, and he would take his dog with him everywhere and take pictures of Max in front of train stuff. And
That's cool.
he'd post stuff like, "Where's Max today?"
I
And
wonder
people,
how Rockland would like to be a rail dog. That'd be fun.
you never know.
That's right.
So let's all say our prayers for Max the rail dog and hope that he went to the great doggy caboose in the sky. And in the meantime, we're going to go because we got to step aside for Heath's show. So thanks everybody for watching. Okay. We'll catch you next month. On the docket for next month is, if things go according to plan, we'll have Stephen Priest of Class 1 Model Works talking about how models are made or something along those lines. We'll see how that goes. That's the plan. Thank you so much, Tom, for being with us, and we'll talk to you in a minute.
Take care, Tom.
Bye, everybody.